I found my wedding dress soaked in red wine 30 minutes before the ceremony. My hands trembled as I touched the ruined lace, realizing this wasn't an accident. Just this morning, my younger sister hugged me with tears in her eyes, calling me the luckiest woman alive. But now I see the rage behind her smile. What could make someone sabotage their own sister's wedding day? This dress was more than fabric. It was everything I thought I earned. And in that moment, I knew either I walk down that aisle as a broken bride or rise as something else entirely. For most of my life, I played the part perfectly. The responsible one. The good daughter. The girl who didn't fight back, who let others shine so long as it kept the peace. When Daniel proposed to me, it felt like the universe had finally handed me something for myself. He was warm, steady, safe, the kind of man you picture building a life with, not a war. And I needed peace. My family greeted the engagement with gleaming smiles and champagne toasts. My mother wept dramatically at brunch, gripping Daniel's hands and calling him the son she never had. My father handed him a vintage bottle of scotch, reserved for only the biggest moments. And Chloe, my younger sister, hugged me so tightly that I could feel her nails press into my back. She cried in front of my phone camera, posted a montage on TikTok that went viral in a day. Old photos of us in matching Easter dresses, her clinging to my leg as kids, her speech at my bridal shower. She added the caption, "She always loved more than she was loved." 1,000,000 likes, tens of thousands of comments. "I want this kind of sisterhood," one said. "She's so lucky to have you," another. But when I watched the video, my heart dropped. Near the end, there was a photo, an old one, me, sitting on the bathroom floor at 16, eyes red from crying, Chloe's head on my lap. I'd never seen it online before. I'd never posted it. I'd never given it to her. That picture wasn't public. Where did she get it? The question clawed at me as I scrolled through the comments. I should have said something, asked her, but I didn't want to ruin the mood. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she found it in an old family drive. I let it go. The following morning, as I was picking up the bracelet my mother gave me years ago, an heirloom passed down through generations, I noticed it missing from the jewelry tray. It wasn't until Chloe walked in, casually sipping an iced latte, that I saw it gleaming on her wrist. "Is that my bracelet?" I asked, voice steadier than I felt. She looked down like she just noticed it. "Oh, this? Mom said I could wear it for the weekend. Something borrowed, you know? Besides, I'm just keeping it safe for you." Safe for me. Like I couldn't be trusted with my own things. I forced a smile. Right, of course. That night was my bachelorette party, just me, my bridesmaids, and, of course, Chloe. She'd insisted on planning the whole thing. Low-key, classy, just the girls, she promised. But when I walked into the rooftop bar, there were ring lights set up, cameras rolling, a giant TikTok live banner overhead. Chloe stood at the center like a host of a reality show. "And here she is," she shouted. "Our blushing bride! Let's see how fast she can chug champagne." The crowd cheered. I froze. Within minutes, I was pulled into games, made to share the most embarrassing moment with Daniel, and answer would-you-rather questions that pushed boundaries I never wanted to cross in public. It was live-streamed, thousands of viewers watching, laughing, commenting. I laughed along, pretending it was fine, because if I snapped, I'd be the uptight bride, the one who couldn't take a joke. And Chloe? She played the charming little sister perfectly, giggling, hugging me, whispering, "Come on, it's fun." Daniel watched the playback later that night, chuckling, "Babe, it's just Chloe being Chloe. You're too tense. Let her have her fun." I stared at him. Let her have her fun, like I was some kind of wet blanket standing in the way of everyone's good time. I smiled, nodded, pretended it didn't eat me alive. But just before bed, as I plugged my phone into the charger, a notification popped up. It was from an unknown number. No name. Just a message. "You trust her too much. Ask her what happened New Year's Eve 2022. My chest tightened. I reread the message 3 times, then locked my phone. What did happen New Year's Eve 2022? I barely remembered it. I'd gone home early. Chloe stayed out with friends. There'd been a fight that night, something vague I was told not to worry about, someone crying in the bathroom, someone missing a phone. I never asked questions, because peace was more valuable than clarity. But now, I wasn't so sure. The message about New Year's Eve haunted me for days. I didn't bring it up, not to Daniel, not to Chloe, not even to myself, really. I just let it rot quietly in the corner of my mind while I smiled through dress fittings, floral arrangements, and final guest list approvals. I told myself that everything would settle once the wedding was over, that maybe I was reading too much into it all. Then I saw Chloe's name on Daniel's phone. He was in the shower when it buzzed. I didn't mean to check. It lit up on the nightstand, and I glanced instinctively. But there it was, her name, her message. "You looked really tired last night. Hope everything's okay. I miss our late talks." My blood went cold. I opened the message thread. Dozens of texts from her. Most were harmless at first, about wedding planning, sending memes. Then, they shifted. "Remember when we watched that stupid movie and laughed so hard we woke Sam? I miss our coffee runs. You never looked at her the way you looked at me," Daniel had replied occasionally. Always brief, polite, distant. But he hadn't told me. When he came out, towel slung low on his hips, I was holding his phone. "Why is she texting you like that?" I asked, voice low. He froze. "Sam, I didn't reply to most of them." "That's not the question. I didn't want to upset you. I thought it was nothing. She's just, you know how Chloe is." I laughed, sharp, humorless. "Yeah, I do." He reached for me, but I stepped back. I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the phone or call Chloe or scream into the void. I did what I was trained to do: breathe deep, stay calm, and protect the family image at all costs. The next morning, a clip of me went viral. Someone had filmed me snapping at a waiter during the rehearsal brunch. I hadn't even remembered it happening. He'd brought the wrong wine, and I'd asked, sharply, yes, for the correct one. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't cursed. But in the video, with the right angle, the right audio, and the right edit, I looked like a monster. #Bridezilla, with control issues. #protect Chloe. #POV your sister is marrying your crush. It was everywhere. Chloe posted a sweet video in response. "Guys, please stop bashing my sister. She's under a lot of pressure. I love her so much, and I know she doesn't mean to be mean." Her eyes welled up, her voice cracked just enough. "She's always been a little intense, but that's why I admire her." The comments flooded in. "Chloe is too pure. That sister gives narcissist energy. Imagine being jealous of your own sibling." My parents called later that night, my mother's voice tight but calm. "Samantha, sweetheart, maybe just let Chloe shine a little. It's her big moment too." "Her moment? It's my wedding. She just wants to feel included." "You mean after she hijacked my bachelorette party, wore my bracelet, and flirts with my fiancé?" A pause. Then my father's voice, firm. "You've always been the strong one. Just let this go." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. But regret came anyway, because the next blow wasn't online. It came in person. At a small pre-wedding lunch with friends and family, Chloe stood up and said she wanted to share a childhood memory. I felt a pang of dread before she even opened her mouth. She sniffled, smiled shyly, and looked straight at me. "I remember when I was 8 and Sam got so mad at me, she pushed me down the stairs. I broke my wrist, but I never told anyone. Because I knew she didn't mean it. She was just under pressure, like now." The room fell into an uneasy silence. She laughed, wiping a tear. "Don't worry, we've moved past it. I love her, truly." Lies, all of it. I'd never pushed her, never, or had I? A sharp pain stabbed the back of my head, a memory, blurry, half-formed, Chloe crying, our mother yelling, blood on tile, but I couldn't place it. Had it happened? Was I remembering it wrong? Could trauma lie? I didn't sleep that night. The video of her confession made its way online. Of course it did. 1.8 million views in 24 hours. #Justice for Chloe trended. Some influencers even duetted the clip, calling for me to apologize. For what? A story I didn't recognize? I tried to ignore it until the message came. From an old friend, one who hadn't been at the party, one who hadn't spoken to me in 5 years. "Hey, about that stair story. I was there that day. I know what really happened, but I think you need to talk to Chloe before I say anything publicly." The morning of my wedding began with silence, a kind of eerie calm that never belongs on a day like this. I woke early, heart pounding for no reason I could name, and walked barefoot to the bridal suite. The sun was barely up. The whole villa bathed in a golden glow. My dress was hanging by the window, ivory, floor-length, lace-trimmed. My dream. I'd tried it on a dozen times just to feel its weight, its promise, and now it was soaked in red wine. The bottom half was drenched, the satin stained like it had been wounded, a deep, violent crimson bleeding up into the white. I froze. Then I laughed. Or maybe it was a gasp. My body didn't know how to process it. I just kept staring. Somewhere behind me, someone gasped. One of the bridesmaids had followed me in. "Oh my God, who did this?" My hands shook as I touched the fabric, still damp. Only 3 people had access to this room. Me, the planner, and Chloe. Chloe appeared 10 minutes later in her pale pink robe, a coffee in hand and faux concern etched into her face. When she saw the dress, she dropped the cup. The sound of it shattering on the tile was theatrical. "Oh no," she whispered. "What happened?" "You tell me," I said, voice flat. Her eyes widened. "Sam, are you seriously implying Why would I ever— You're the only other person with a key." Shh, she blinked rapidly. No, it was that guy, the hotel staff, the one who was helping us yesterday with the mirrors. He had access, right?" "Name him." "What? Name him." She flinched. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. The planner stepped forward slowly. "That staff member. He's not hotel staff. He's a TikTok follower of yours. You tagged him in a story last night." Chloe turned pale. "It's not like that. He just wanted to help. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe someone else snuck in." The room buzzed with quiet tension, whispers, the smell of wine sharp in the air. Then my mother walked in. She took one look at the dress and then at me. "Why is there always a crisis around you, Samantha?" I blinked. "Around me? Everything's always so dramatic with you. Why can't we just have one peaceful moment?" I laughed, short, bitter. "I didn't do this." But her expression had already set. I couldn't breathe. The walls felt too close, the air too heavy, my skin too tight. I left. I walked out the door and kept walking until I found a supply closet. I went inside, closed the door, locked it, sat on the floor. The tears didn't come right away. First came the numbness, then the whispers in my head. "This is your fault. You've always been hard to love. She's the fun one, the kind one, the one people root for." I looked at my reflection in a metal panel, warped, smudged, unsteady. "Maybe I deserved this," I whispered. The knock came 20 minutes later. Soft, almost gentle. "Sam?" Chloe's voice, muffled but clear. I didn't answer. "I just wanted to say something, and I know you probably don't want to hear it, but I'm gonna say it anyway." A pause. "I used to watch you walk into every room and get everything I ever wanted. You were the smart one, the pretty one, the one they picked first. I never got that. I was the mess, the joke, the spare. And I hated you for it." I held my breath. "But today, I finally feel seen. Not just as your shadow, but as me." Her voice was soft, too soft. "I guess what I'm trying to say is, thank you. For always being perfect enough for both of us." Footsteps retreated. I stared at the panel, at myself. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. Instead, I laughed. Not loud, just a breath. A release. because I knew now, this wasn't an apology, this was her coronation. She'd won, she broke me, and she knew it. But then, a buzz on my phone. I didn't remember grabbing it. Maybe someone had slipped it under the door. It was from Leo, our videographer. One message: "You need to see this." I caught her on mic, didn't realize until I reviewed the footage. A video file loaded, no caption, just Chloe, alone, in the dressing room, thinking no one was around. She thinks today's hers, but it's mine. I don't care if she cries. I don't care if she cancels. I want her to break. I want her to feel what I felt every day growing up. I watched it twice, then a third time. My breath came back. Not rage, not pain, clarity. I stood up, brushed off my dress, and smiled. I watched the video again, this time without blinking, every second of it etched into my skull like a scar being stitched in reverse. Chloe's voice was cold, measured, almost clinical. I want her to break. Her words slithered into every memory I had of us, of scraped knees and shared beds, of whispered secrets under the covers, all poisoned now, all lies. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't even surprised. There was a part of me, hidden deep beneath years of self-control, that had always known this moment would come, that one day the mask would fall, and when it did, it wouldn't be loud, it would be surgical. I closed the file and looked up at the mirror again. The reflection that stared back was no longer warped, no longer pleading. She was still, and she was done begging to be understood. I walked out of the supply closet like it was a coffin, and I had just crawled out alive. No dress, no bouquet, just a phone in one hand, purpose in the other. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. "Sam, where are you? The guests are asking." "If you let her take one more step on that stage," I said, calm as ice, "I'll upload the video. I'll stream it live from the altar. You'll lose more than a daughter. You'll lose your precious illusion." Silence. "Don't test me, Mom." A click. She hung up, but she got the message. I went back to the bridal suite and found my planner in a panic. The dress. Do we call a cleaner? A designer? Do we? "I'm not wearing the dress," I said. "Find me something simple, white, anything." We settled on a sleek silk slip dress meant for the after-party, minimalist, clean, honest, like what I had to say. While the planner adjusted the hem, I pulled up my original vows on my phone. Then I deleted them. I started again. This time, I didn't write about love. I wrote about survival. I wrote about masks and mirrors, about what it means to perform your whole life and call it family. I wrote about the little girl who thought love was something you earned by being good, and how that girl had to die for a woman to live. The words came easily. They felt like oxygen. Outside, the wedding had begun to shift, guests whispering, staff scrambling, Chloe's name appearing in muted conversations. She had arrived, of course, dressed like a backup bride in soft blue with makeup that screamed innocence. But something had changed. People weren't running to her anymore. The glow around her had dimmed. Maybe they'd heard something. Maybe they'd seen the fear in my mother's eyes. Maybe they just knew, instinctively, that something was about to fracture. I stood at the edge of the aisle with Daniel, moments before we'd walk in. He hadn't spoken much since the dress, since the texts, since all of it. But now, he took my hand. "I'm with you," he said, "whatever happens." I believed him. At 9:08 p.m., I looked down at my phone. The confession video was loaded, set to autoplay at 9:10, sent to a cloud folder, then to my backup account set to trigger on schedule. Unless I stopped it. I looked across the room at Chloe. She smiled at me. Not warmly, not lovingly, strategically, like a chess player seeing the final move. But what she didn't know was that I'd flipped the board. I stepped onto the stage. The room hushed. My father stared, unmoving. My mother looked down at her lap like it held all her failures. Chloe sat in the front row, center, as if it were her wedding too. I cleared my throat, and I began. "My name is Samantha, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life." I paused. Instead, it became the most honest. Gasps, shifting chairs, eyes wide. I told them what they didn't want to hear, not the details of the sabotage, Not the dress or the live stream or the wine, but the patterns, the praise that became pressure, the smiles that came with sharp edges, the sisterhood that was performance art. I didn't name her. I didn't have to. The truth was already echoing off the walls. At 9:09 p.m., I reached for my phone, paused the upload, because the video didn't need to scream what my voice had already made undeniable. I looked at Chloe. She wasn't smiling anymore. The lights in the reception hall cast everything in a soft, golden hue. Fairy lights glittered across the ceiling, candles flickered on every table, and the piano played something delicate and forgettable. It looked like a dream, one curated for social media. But beneath the surface, something darker pulsed, a tension no floral arrangement could cover. I stepped into the room in the simple white slip dress. It was nothing like the gown I'd spent months choosing. This one had no lace, no beads, no cathedral-length train. And yet, I had never looked more like a bride. Or more like myself. Guests turned. Some gasped softly. Others whispered behind napkins, but all eyes stayed on me. Except hers. Chloe stood near the dessert table in pale blue silk, hair curled into soft waves, lips painted a shade too close to bridal blush. When our eyes met, her expression flickered, just for a second. Then she walked toward me, heels tapping too loudly on the hardwood. "Sam," she said, voice low, urgent. "I didn't mean for—" I handed her the mic. She blinked. The silence was thick enough to taste. Her hand trembled as she took it. "I just want to say that this is a misunderstanding. I love my sister. I've always admired her. She's just under a lot of pressure, and sometimes she—" The screen behind her flickered. Then came the video. Her voice, clear as glass, filled the room. "She thinks today's hers, but it's mine. I don't care if she cries. I don't care if she cancels. I want her to break. I want her to feel what I felt every day growing up." Gasps echoed like thunder. Someone knocked over a wine glass. A woman near the front covered her mouth. Chloe froze, mouth still open, microphone dangling from her fingers. And then came the twist. The screen dimmed and a new message appeared, edited and produced by JT. There was a beat. Then Chloe's face drained of all color. JT stood in the back corner of the room, arms crossed. Jordan Thomas, her ex, the one she'd humiliated publicly 3 years ago when she leaked his private messages and blamed him for their breakup. He gave her a small wave, smirked. "I told you," he mouthed. "Karma." Chloe dropped the mic. My mother stood up, eyes wide, mouth trembling. No, this isn't— It's taken out of context." Chloe didn't move. My father sat in silence. Finally, a guest, someone I barely knew, stood and began to clap. Then another and another, until the room was filled with applause that wasn't joyous, but affirming. Not for revenge, for truth. Daniel reached for my hand. He didn't squeeze it, just held it, quiet, steady. Then he leaned in and whispered, "You just redefined what a wedding is." I didn't smile. Not yet. The rest of the night passed in a strange, beautiful fog. People came up to me, hugged me, apologized for not seeing sooner. Some were quiet, some cried. One woman I didn't recognize, mid and 40s dressed in black, slipped me a note and disappeared into the crowd. I opened it hours later. "You don't know me, but I've watched from the beginning. Tonight, I saw myself in you, and for the first time in years, I felt hope. Thank you." I didn't cry when I read it. I just folded the paper and tucked it into my purse like it was something sacred. Chloe didn't stay for the cake. She vanished sometime after the second song. One moment she was in the far corner, hands clenched at her sides. The next, she was gone. Not a goodbye, not a word. The planner told me she saw Chloe leave through the back garden. Alone. No shoes, no one followed her. At midnight, when the final guests had left and the lights dimmed to amber, I stood with Daniel beneath the canopy of lights and let myself exhale, not from relief, from release. The past had snapped clean, not with vengeance, but with truth. A month after the wedding, the video hit 12 million views. It was stitched, remixed, captioned in every language. People called it the realest wedding of the year. Not for the vows, not for the flowers, but for the truth, raw and unfiltered. They called me brave. They called me unbreakable. But I wasn't either of those things. I was just done pretending. The clip of Chloe's confession played on loop across platforms, her face mid-sentence, caught in that split second before her world tilted. Brands severed ties, sponsorships pulled out, PR firms distanced, influencers unfollowed in droves. She disappeared from social media a week later. Then the articles came. Leaked reports said she had checked into a behavioral health center. Voluntarily. Though most sources whispered otherwise. Words like mandatory, evaluation, unfit. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. Some part of me, buried deep under all the wreckage, still wished it hadn't come to this. Still wished we had found a different way to love each other. But I also knew we never could. You can't build bridges with people who burn them for warmth. In the weeks that followed, emails flooded in, from strangers, from survivors, from women who had been gaslit by sisters, mothers, husbands, churches. Stories poured into my inbox like confessions. I read them all, every word. I answered as many as I could. I was asked to speak at TEDx. The stage was simple. Black backdrop, red circle underfoot, my name in small white print behind me. When blood turns to poison, I began. Healing begins with cutting it out. My voice didn't shake. The applause came not like thunder, but like rain, soft, steady, inevitable. That night, I got a letter, handwritten, from my father. His words were slow, careful. He apologized for the silence, for the dismissals, for not standing up when I needed him most. He ended with, "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking for a chance to try." I didn't write back, but I didn't throw it away. Instead, I tucked it beside the note from the stranger at the wedding. The healing didn't come all at once, but it came. I launched an online course, Boundaries, Bloodlines, and Becoming. Within a week, it had 40,000 signups. Women from all over the world shared their stories in the forums. Some cried on Zoom calls. Some laughed for the first time in years. It wasn't about me. It was about them finally seeing themselves. Daniel and I moved to a quiet town by the coast. No social media. No press. No speaking engagements for a year. Just silence and walks on the beach and dinners without phones. We planted herbs in the kitchen. Learned to make our own pasta. Sometimes we danced barefoot in the living room. Sometimes we just sat and said nothing, and that was enough. I wrote a book, The Sister I Buried in My Wedding Dress. It hit the bestseller list in 4 days. Some called it memoir. Others called it survival literature. I called it an exorcism. I never wrote her name in it, not once. But she was in every word. And then, a year to the day after my own wedding, I stood in the back of a small chapel, watching my best friend walk down the aisle. Her dress was radiant, ivory, lace-trimmed. My dress, the one I never got to wear. She had asked me for permission, said it felt too sacred otherwise. Now, as I watched her glow, I felt no bitterness, no regret, just a quiet, blooming peace. When she passed me, I leaned in and whispered, "Now you wear it with freedom." And I meant it.